from monsters and ghosts to otherworldly beings. Join the explorers as they venture into the darkest realms, seeking the truth to what goes bump in the night.
Good evening and welcome to Explorers Seekers of the Truth, episode 20. I am Chad Charlesworth, and as always, I'm joined by my best friend and co-host, Les Cabbage. How are you doing tonight, Les?
Confused.
It's okay.
a little annoyed, a little irritated. But, you know, it's all good. It's all good. I've been hustling all day to try and get this show put together because, you know, when you leave it to me, it's all last minute, unlike you where you're prepared a week in advance. But, yeah, I was trying so hard to get this show, and I apologize for getting it to you last minute, but you know what? We'll make the best of it, so hopefully everybody enjoys it. But other than that, I am good. How about you, buddy?
Well, you brought me in playing cold, so I'm really good actually. That's right down my line. So I was kind of like hoping you would just let it play and then hit the intro, and then I would be good.
I could have. I was thinking about it. I'm like, hey, just let it go. Let it go. We'll just. But then I was like, no, I gotta.
Well, I mean,
that just adds to the chaos today.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have your intro, and then, like Opie and Anthony used to have Street Fighting Man, that would play as they were, starting the show, so we could do it. But,
That's true.
I'm great, I'm having fun. I'm, watching you panic over there, so.
God, I tell you what. If it isn't bad enough that I have high blood pressure already, this doesn't help me. So anyways, I'll go through my normal, good evening, Michelle. Good to see you here, kid or girl. Friend, kiddo, whatever. I don't. You know what? I'm losing it today, so don't mind me. But thanks for stopping by. Anyway, I'll go through my normal routine here, and hopefully I don't screw this up. I've been screwing everything else up. So you can get in touch with us by going to our website, www.explorersgroup.com. Go to the Contact Us page. You can send us a message. Let us know anything you want us to know. You can get in touch with us on Twitter. That is, our handle there is @ExplorersGroup. And obviously on Facebook, where you're seeing us now, facebook.com/ExplorersGroup. And let's see, what else do we have that we could go to? Instagram. I don't have the link on that, but if you go to Instagram/ExplorersGroup, you can find us there. And we're also, again, thank you, Chad. We're on iTunes. If you go into iTunes and search Explorer Seekers of the Truth, you can get all of our episodes on there in the podcast section. So make sure you're in the podcast section on iTunes and search us out. And you could take us wherever you go as long as you subscribe. So you've been called worse. I doubt that. But so that's how you can get in touch with us, all those fun ways. And, so I'm gonna just pass it back to you.
Okay. So for this week's oddity of the week, it comes to us from the dailynews.co.uk and Apex Television. A lot of you may have seen it online. This time traveler who claims to be showing a photo of Los Angeles, completely submerged underwater in the year 5000. He's a man only known as Edward, claims he was part of a top-secret experiment at an LA laboratory in 2004, which allowed him to time travel. He claims to have photographic evidence of that Los Angeles will be completely underwater by the year 5000. And of course, in the video, Edward's voice and face was disguised, so nobody could identify him. But he said it was a post-apocalyptic flood, which was a result of global warming. He also claimed that people were still living in the area above water on boats and vessels and stuff like that. He claims to have taken these photos with a special camera that he was given by one of the project people. If you check it out, to me, the photo... I said this to Les earlier when we were kicking around the idea of this being the oddity of the week. The photo just looks like somebody who created a cityscape, like the tops of buildings, and submerged it in a fish tank, filled the fish tank with water, and then had a light off in the distance blurry to look like the sun, and kind of just shot the image. like on an angle, so you could kind of see inside where the buildings used to be. Because to me, even the buildings did not look like they were damaged, even though they were submerged. It just looked like
Right.
normal rooftops.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not sure, you know, I do not believe this is a photo of the year 5000. Um, you know, in another 2000 years, it's not impossible that land that we now have as dry land is going to be submerged just on plate tectonics and stuff like that. And the movement could create, areas that were once above water being below water. And one of the things that threw me off about the photograph was when you look at it, you don't see anything in the background. Like you don't see anything, just continuation or anything like that. It just looks like somebody created a cityscape and kind of shot it on an angle in a fish tank underwater. Now, Les, you're more of a photography and graphic design and stuff like that. So, kind of kick out an opinion there on what you are seeing. What your thoughts are on something like that.
Well, I agree along the lines of what you're saying as far as something being shot through a fish tank or some kind of like an aquarium setting, and it almost looks to me like now I only saw a quick snippet of it in that video, but what I saw, it looked to me kind of like when you get a fish tank, sometimes you could like adhere background behind the fish tank, and it'll look like an underwater, like a coral reef or something.
Yeah,
That's kind of what it reminded me of. Like they had just like a half-assed rendering that they printed out and just kind of taped to the back of the fish tank, and they shot through the front glass just so the angle was such that you could see like the above water portion of the picture. You could see kind of like the sea foam, if you will. So it almost looked to me like it was a saltwater tank, and maybe out of frame was the pump or filter shooting the water back into the tank. Still creates that kind of sea foam like you would see in the ocean. Now, it didn't look like there were a lot of big waves. It honestly looked just like the top of a saltwater aquarium. So to me, it almost looked like the tank, like the top or the opening of the tank was high enough out of frame where you didn't see it. The walls and the pumps and everything else were out of frame, and it was just enough of the background image that you could say, oh, well, it was a partially submerged camera shooting underwater. Because think about it, if the city was underwater, first of all, I don't think the water would be that blue over there. Second of all, yeah, because that looked like tropical Caribbean water. Like I don't think the water in California is that blue.
Yeah, it was too clean. And like I said, like if you look at the buildings and stuff like that, you would have all this stuff like, chemicals, oils, all this stuff that would be kind of seeping out of those. I mean, even natural underwater, areas that have growths and stuff like that, you will see stuff coming out of occasionally.
Right.
The water to me, was too clean.
Yeah, and there was no other signs of sea life. There was nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no fish, no it just seemed like to me, I think there would have to, I mean, I've taken photos underwater. In the Caribbean and stuff like that. And I probably could dig out a photo or two that are kind of similar in angle. There's tons of stuff. There's fish, there's, coral, there's, bubbles coming up from the bottom. So to me, it seems like a fish tank photo.
Yeah, and depending on how long the city was supposedly submerged, now most of the structures would have been far more deteriorated underwater. You know what I mean? And if it did sink, I don't think as much of the city would have remained as intact as it was shown in that photograph. And Cleo posted a good point. She said that she saw it and they expected to hear more from somebody from the future. And that's a good point as well. It's like you get sent to the year 5000, you take a crappy photo, which you would think in the year 5000 you'd be able to reproduce something a lot better than what he had shown. And the only other really information that the guy told was everything was made out of wood, and
Yeah.
the new city was floating, which the year 5000 again, I would think now granted, unless they're between now and then there was some kind of like major nuclear war or something that just decimated a large percent of the population, where we almost regressed to a primal setting, and what was built would be wood and things that were kind of like thatched together and whatnot. But I don't know, to me it would just seem like things would be far more different. You'd have a lot more to say, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like you wouldn't get a crappy
Yeah.
picture like that.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, he only referenced Los Angeles, being underwater and stuff like that. If the rest of the country was still fine, why would everything have to be made of wood?
Right.
Like the rest of the country, you'd still be able to produce fiberglass, you'd still be able to produce other floatable materials and stuff like that. And if you're going to have a city where Los Angeles used to be and there was still dry land other places, why would people choose to live on a floating city? Like, to me, that's like that Waterworld movie and stuff.
Yeah,
Kevin Costner. Yeah. But all I can think of is while we're talking about this is that I don't remember what it's from, but in the year 5000. Like, that's all I could think of because it is such a bad story. I mean, at least as crazy as the like Al Bielek story becomes, like once you go down that wormhole that I did, the crazier it got. But at least his story was interesting. Like,
and it made a little bit more sense. It was more feasible than this. Another thing that sticks out like a sore thumb to me with that photograph is, think about it. Most of the buildings, now that showed a fairly intact city, an entire city that looked fairly intact. Now, most of the buildings over there are multiple stories high. So, they're really, really tall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you figure even like a 30-story building is pretty damn tall. So that picture showed these tall buildings way, 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 way down in the water. And like if you look at the perspective from the top of the what he was calling the ocean to where the buildings are, they were way, way, way submerged underwater. So you got to figure just to cover the buildings has got to be deep. And then they go even further to the depth of what he was showing. There's no way the light would penetrate that far into the ocean to get that clear of a shot.
Yeah. You bring that up. That makes a very valid point. Like, that the water's too blue and the visual of the bottom is too crystally clear, for that depth. And first of all, like buildings that are that tall, say 30 stories.
Yeah.
Are built for, yes, earthquakes and stuff being in LA and stuff like that, but not all buildings were.
Right.
But the newer ones are. But the ocean pressure of the water would cause them to crack and crumble and fall. Yeah, and fall onto the building next to it. It's too neat of a photo.
Yeah.
Like,
now, granted, the windows could have busted out to release a lot of that pressure. That could be feasible. However, you're right, with the amount of pressure pushing down on the structures, plus you have so much underground current that's going to be a huge contributor to force continuously pushing against those buildings and swaying. It would have been more rubble than that. But then again, like I said before, we don't know when exactly that happened, and in comparison to when that photo was taken. But looking at some of the degradation of the buildings, I would imagine they'd been down there for a while. I don't know. I just think it's a bunch of BS.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's to me, it's one of these. I need attention, so I'm going to come up with a story. Because notice also the thing that got me was the guy's voice and face had to be hidden on the video.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because somebody who would know that person could quickly debunk his story, like, look, he's mentally ill, or hey, he's never worked in California. He's from Oregon and has always had these crazy ideas that he's a time traveler since he was little. So it's almost like it's a cover up of like the real identity and stuff like that. You know, to me also just leads to me being like, this doesn't seem like it could even be true. Not saying that time travel eventually and stuff like that wouldn't be possible or may even nowadays be possible, you know, but the story goes nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to the year 5000.
Yeah, and I brought back a crappy picture and a terrible, terrible story with nothing else to kind of go off of. And Cleo raises another question: why aren't more people coming back if they can? I think I have two theories to that. One, if it is a post-apocalyptic world and people are in more of a primal state, they probably don't have the technology to come back. Now, this guy supposedly was sent to the year 5000 from the year 2004. So maybe the technology is alive and well now, but when they get to a certain distance in the future, the people there can't come back. Only the people that were sent there were the ones able to come back. Second part to that is if they do have the capabilities to, you know, in that far into the future to time travel, perhaps they are still using the same kind of fear that it's best not to disrupt things in the past, you know, to, you know, in attempts to not change things in the future. So when you come into the past, bad things can happen. When you go into the future, well, you know, maybe it wouldn't change that much. But then again, if you think about time as a whole, if people are coming back and forth and into the future, is the future really the future? Because the future could be the past to somebody else that's even further ahead than them. You know what I mean?
That's actually, there's a time travel paradox that they discuss a lot. And to simplify it, basically, time travel would only be possible from the point of the invention of the technology through the continuation of the technology. So you couldn't time travel one of our favorite TV shows that you and I always talk about, Terra Nova. Now that's going to a different timeline. But in this paradox, you couldn't travel back in our timeline to the age of dinosaurs. Because the equipment for you to time travel is not invented for a time span after that. So you can only travel inside of the window of the equipment. So therefore, if it was going into the future, the equipment would still have to exist into the future.
Okay.
And therefore kind of would lend to like Cleo saying like, why aren't more people coming back then? You know, but then again, if people are coming back and they're telling us they're time travelers from the future, are we sitting here on a podcast going, oh, this dude's crazy? And, you know, they're trying to warn people and people are looking at them like, hey, you're nuts. Okay, let's put you in this home, you know.
Right. Because maybe now, let's just say, because I mean, even the Nazis were dabbling in time travel and what would be considered alien technology. Let's say it did exist back then, and let's say it does exist right now. Well, obviously, it's going to be held in secrecy. So anybody coming back in time, like you said, they'd be a nut and they'd be locked up. But there's been lots of accounts of people traveling through time, like that one guy that showed up in New York City, and I think he got hit by a car or something like that. And I don't know if we talked about this on a past show or did I just read it online or something. But this dude ended up just appearing in New York City in the streets, and he got hit by a car and he died. But all the information on him was from like the early turn of the century. Like he had a carriage pass, like to where he would keep his carriage. And where his address was, supposedly a person did live there, but it was back in like the early 1900s.
Yeah, there's also that one in I don't think we've ever talked about that on the show. But there was also the one in
that not to interrupt, but that's the hard part with you and I is we talk about this crap off the air too all the time, and I can never remember when did we talk about that.
Yeah, but there's also that guy that I believe it was at like the Tokyo airport who showed up and like they basically questioned him for some odd reason. He just didn't fit with what was going on around him. And they questioned him, and he's like, look, I have to get, he was like an American, but he was in Japan at the airport. He's like, I have to get home, you know, da 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 da. All his paperwork, his ID and different, you know, stuff in his wallet and all was all very futuristic. They took him to a hotel because they weren't going to let him fly because I don't forget, I think it was like in the 70s this happened. And they were kind of afraid that he was some kind of like terrorist or something like that. So they wouldn't let him on the airplane. So they put him up in a hotel in Tokyo, and they posted police officers, and it was like 20 some stories up, and they posted police officers right outside his door. And, you know, finally they, you know, kind of started to piece it together, and, you know, the stranger thought of it started to kind of take hold. Like, this guy is not from our time. And when they went to the hotel to talk to him about, you know, how did you get here, you know, this and this, he had completely disappeared from a hotel room like on the 20th story with like police officers, 3 or 4 of them sitting right outside of his door, and was never seen again.
Yeah. He was the. I'm sorry if I didn't hear this part because my eyes feel like they're on fire and my glasses are horribly filthy because I was grilling and I got hamburger.
What are you doing? I didn't say, what are you doing? Sticking your face in it or what? Like just throwing on the grill and looking at it.
I did because I was trying to blow out a flame because I didn't clean my burners properly the last time, and there was like a 6-inch flame shooting out. And
that's what the flame is for. It's cleaning off the burner. Come on.
Yeah. But so I got to clean my glasses. But is that the guy? You probably already said it, but he like had like this insider stock information, and he like got all this freaking money, and that's how they kind of investigated him. Like they couldn't find any information on him, and when he started trading all these stocks, they're like, how does this guy know without insider information? And they quarantined him, and like you said, then when they tried to get him, he was gone.
I think that might be it. That kind of sounds a little more, it kind of refreshed the story in my mind a little bit. But yeah, it does kind of sound a little more like that end
the same
of it.
One, yeah.
So there was a question here, Les. I'm sorry, I'm reading questions now because I'm looking at it on my phone.
No, that's okay. I was Brian Miller posted a question to us, and you can read it. I took my glasses off.
He actually posted it to you. I guess I don't count.
No, go ahead. You can read it. It's all right.
No, I'll read it
I'm
to
cooler
you.
than you. That's all it is. No big deal.
Yeah. Okay. Keep thinking that as you wipe hamburger grease off of your glasses. Okay.
Only cool kids do that.
Do you really want to go down that road? So. The question was, do you think we are in an apocalyptic era or a far advanced world in the future?
What, like right now?
No, in the future. Like I think what he's asking is in that future, 5,000 years or 2,000 years from now, the year 5,000, have we completely and basically years? Well, yeah, 3,000 years, 2,000. What? You know what?
Yeah.
Do you really want why don't you go back to wiping hamburger grease off your eyes?
Get on with it.
Yeah, and then get my hamburger. Yeah. But so in the future, what he's asking is, have we regressed ourselves to the point where like Graham Hancock and those guys think like we build up to a certain point, we do something stupid, the village idiots are left, and then we have to start from that point and work back up?
Oh, God, I wish.
Or have we gotten to that idyllic utopian society where almost in the vein of Star Trek, where planet Earth has decided to work together, come together, establish ourselves as one united group, or have we basically, nuke ourselves into the Stone Age again?
Well, you don't know unless we had a time machine, but I guess.
Well, no, it's speculative. It's just a question. It's not you're not giving a definitive answer. You're just your thoughts on it.
Honestly, I would hope that we would return back to some sense of, not to sound like hippie or anything like that, but I would hope that the Earth would return to more of a natural state rather than continue on the path that we are now, where we're basically killing ourselves and everything on this planet with disease and, crime and greed. I would hope that either one of two things would happen. We regress to a more natural state where there's not really government. It's more not socialist, but more of a like you were saying with like about Star Trek. Well, rather than having a unified agreement amongst extraterrestrial life, I would rather it be a unified understanding or a coexistence with the people on Earth, which is a hard thing to imagine the way the world is now. But it would be great to have it more of that utopia state, but not polluted and disgusting like it is becoming and is. Or on the other hand, like we were talking about that what is it that well, I'm not going to bring up the person's name, but we're talking about another time travel situation where the one future scenario was that unified, all people are equal, everybody lives in harmony, but it was in floating structures in the sky, not necessarily a terrain or what's the word I'm looking for, like it's not a ground society anymore. We're all in the sky.
It's the Jetsons.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. The Jetsons. Yeah, where we all live in the sky. We're all off of the Earth, and maybe that is we destroyed the Earth so badly that we have to get away from the pollution, and we have to resort to living in the sky to get away from it all. So, who knows?
Now there was a follow-up part of that excellence. We go through learning, and as from what I understand, like people, Brian had asked, do we go through learning and inventing everything again? I think the way like Graham Hancock and people explain this is it's not that we go through learning and reinventing everything. Like we're at a certain level. We build up to an understanding of like masonry. And, we get so far advanced, but there's still masons out there. So when this, apocalyptic event happens, there are enough masons that survive who have the skill set to do masonry from, year one post-apocalypse. And we have to relearn. And basically, I think Joe Rogan actually explained it best when he said, basically, we build ourselves up, we nuke ourselves, the village idiots are left, and there's limited skill set. So medicine, you go through something like that, you may only have a group of 5 doctors left on the entire planet. Right. Well, they're not going to be able to teach somebody else enough to be a doctor on their level because they had years of schooling with specialists, with all the technologies and stuff like that. So some of the technologies are lost. So we'd have to reinvent that stuff, but not necessarily all of it. Some of it is stuff you still see because like you go into like the Amazon and there's people in the Amazon that tell stories about their ancestors living in glass houses and, airplane, like they describe airplanes, they describe glass houses. And these are parts of the Amazon where planes don't fly over that part of the Amazon. So for them to sit there and draw what their ancestors told them about, or for them to draw what we would say is a television that they talk about how their ancestors used to watch, moving pictures on this box. So I think it's one of those things like not everything is lost, but a good enough portion of stuff is lost. And sometimes we have to kind of reinvent certain things. Now, not necessarily if we say we lost cars, it wouldn't be that we necessarily reinvent the car, but we will reinvent something along the lines that will propel us into the next developmental stage. So it might be, instead of internal combustion, it might be, electric, or it might be magnetic or something like that. And that would be the motor platform that all the future vehicles might be built off of. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. I think we need to move on to the actual show topic. That was just our oddity intro. But very good questions, and it was, good to bring that up, I guess. So, but anyways, thanks, Brian, and Cleo for your questions. So let's get on to the show topic for tonight. And tonight we're going to be talking about phantom cats. So let's set the mood, shall we? It's early spring in the mountains of Pennsylvania. You're finally able to get out of the house and enjoy the outdoors. As you walk along your favorite wooded trail with your trusty little dog, you notice him acting a little strange. He starts to growl as the hair on the scruff of his neck stands on end. He's locked into something ahead on the trail. As you look up, all you see are a pair of black legs and a tail streak out of sight. And this is a common story a scenario that multiple eyewitnesses have encountered, not only in the USA, but throughout other countries as well. So people have been reporting sightings of large black cats, most commonly called phantom cats, that are not native to the area. Right? So, and like I said, it's not just the United States; it's the UK, and in areas where these things aren't, commonly found.
Well, yes, Les, that's right. I'm sorry. I was actually looking up. Cleo asked a question. I was kind of looking up for the answer there for a second. So, yes, these are Felidae, which are not native, or they were thought to be extinct in an area, but now are being reported to inhabit another area. Mm-hmm. And these are, your larger felines, your jaguars, your cougars, panthers, and they allegedly appear in a region, and sightings, tracks, stuff like that start happening. And this includes, your Britain, Australia, Ireland, New Zealand. I guess you could throw in Finland, Denmark, in the eastern United States, even Hawaii, which is an island, Italy and Luxembourg.
Mm-hmm. Areas that most of these cats from the larger continents clearly couldn't get there on their own,
Yeah, and here's the thing: their existence is unproven, but they're like in England. There's a lot of people that suggest that these cats that are being seen, these large cats, are basically animals that were released after the Dangerous and Wild Animals Act of 1967. And then there's to a lesser degree, there's the romanticized, they are a surviving Ice Age fauna. Mm. Now you got to realize, like, the largest cat found in Europe is the Eurasian lynx, which is actually the largest of the lynx species. Mm-hmm. But that's not even technically a big cat. Like, right. Lion, leopard, cheetah, cougar, jaguar, and tigers are considered your big cats. Mm-hmm. But for Europe, it is, it's their iconic big cat. Right, now, right. Eyewitnesses are claiming that what they are seeing isn't a lynx. They're always saying there appears to be a large black panther or cougar that stalks its prey in the pastures and the moors in those areas, especially in the UK. This is what a lot of the reports are.
Right, exactly. And for instance, in Warwickshire, there have been multiple sightings of big cats ranging from that golden wheat color, like cougar color, and to a stripy patterned coat, to an all black coat, like a typical black panther. And in 2016, the 4-foot long animal was captured on camera by a man named Philip White. And I'm going to bring up that picture that he found quick. Give me one sec. So this is the picture of the back end of this cat that he had supposedly found. Now, if you look at it, to me, it looks as though it could be like the hind end of a cougar. It's kind of got that thicker, defined shaped tail, but it almost looks like it might be striped, but I don't know if that's the tail pattern or the I don't know if it's that kind of dead grass that's around it. But that was the picture that he had caught, and Philip White spotted it behind his house in the village of Great Aln Warks. Supposedly it has all the hallmarks of the Eurasian lynx, which were once a common sight in that part of the UK until it's believed they were hunted into extinction, if I could talk, around 700 AD. But what's interesting, though, with that picture, the cat that's captured in that image had that long tail, right? But if it were a lynx, because this guy was saying it has all the hallmarks of this Eurasian lynx, but don't lynx have the bob tail like a bobcat? So that picture to me, and I'll bring it up again here. Oops, there we go. That's a pretty long tail. I mean, that's definitely not lynx or bobcat in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, unless the Eurasian lynx is, different in that way, it seems like an awfully big tail. Unless, like you said, unless it is like the dead grass or something kind of giving you that stripy pattern, and maybe it's not as long as it kind of looks in that photo.
Yeah.
But it seems like an awfully long tail for a cat.
Yeah, and based off of pictures that I had found of the Eurasian lynx, it's spot on to the lynx that we have in like Canada and North America. So
okay,
I would say that looks more cougar than anything. But then again, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but we were talking the other day, a lot of these pictures are from a distance, and as you can see from this picture, I'll bring it up once again. As you can see, you have that kind of rolling hill going towards the cat. So obviously the picture was taken from a lower angle, and you get that forced perspective. Like we were talking about the other day, when I go driving around at night, on a night of a full moon, we'll be cruising along and you're going down this back road and it dips down. All of a sudden you look up and the moon looks enormous. It fills the night sky. It's the most gorgeous, beautiful, giant moon you've ever seen. Then 50 feet, you get up to the top of this hill, and all of a sudden it's little tiny moon. It's just that change of elevation, and it really can distort the perspective or the size of something you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So now the next sighting we're going to talk about was made in Huddersfield, and this is according to the Sun.uk. And the story is a businessman caught a suspected black panther on camera skulking towards two people sitting under a tree on August 24th, and I'm not sure what year that was.
There wasn't a year. Yeah.
Okay.
If you could bring the picture up for you. Yep, you got it. There we go.
Yeah. Now, this comes from Mark Robinson, who was enjoying a round with a business partner at the time. He told the Huddersfield Daily Examiner, "We saw what looked like a big black panther walking away from us. It looked to be stalking something like a cat would. And it was very distinctive and had a huge tail. And its slow movement and the way it moved had distinguished itself from not being a dog." Mm-hmm. And he's quoted as saying, "We whistled at it to attract its attention. It turned around and you could see it had pointed ears. It went low on its hunches and then shot off into the bushes at a speed." And he said, now, as it goes, eerily, there was a second panther-like creature that was sighted in the fields in Lincolnshire by a delivery driver, Stephen Parker, who spotted a similar beast while driving near the village of Oberthorpe in Lincolnshire. And, he took, let's see, he stopped his van and took a photo of the creature. And he is quoted as saying, "With his naked eye, I could clearly see it was a big cat. I would say a black panther. I managed to take a photo with my phone before it climbed up some logs to lie down, and then I could not see it from where I was."
Mm-hmm.
He is also quoted as saying, "It cannot be a horse because horses don't climb logs. It cannot be a cow because they can't either. So it doesn't leave much option other than a big cat."
Yeah, I would say.
He
And
goes on to
unfortunately,
say,
go ahead, go ahead. I was gonna say
yeah,
I don't have a picture of that one though. I couldn't find his
yeah,
picture, so I just took his story.
yeah. He goes on to say, "The view I got with the naked eye was much better than the one I got with my phone, and it was quite some ways away. I would say about 250 yards. When I tried to zoom in on the image, it got worse. I'm utterly convinced that what I was looking at with my naked eye was a panther. Now, there have been numerous sightings in the area over the years, and I think there must be a good chance that there is more than one of these animals and they have bred."
Hmm. Now the I'll bring up another picture here. And this is the Black Panther that most of these people are claiming to see. And one thing that sticks out to me um, is look at this is pretty tall grass that this cat's going through, and you can see that most of the tall grass is coming up to about the bends in all the legs. So what you would
Hmm.
consider the knee or elbow, I guess. Um, so this cat is substantially larger than the grass. A lot of the other pictures that that I had seen when I was setting up the show topic tonight, a lot of the other supposed phantom cats, people were saying that they were either a cougar or a panther. The grass was more, I would say, parallel to the center of the body, just below the shoulder hump. So
Yeah.
unless the grass was really, really tall, now the picture that I had shown of that panther, that's tall grass. I mean, that's about where grass hits its full maturity in height. Like it gets to a certain height and then it starts to lay because of its own weight.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Like that other picture that was in Worcestershire was pretty convincing because if you looked at a lot of the shrubbery around it, it's a decent sized cat, you know. But
Yeah.
to go back to the UK sightings, I do remember an episode of Monster Quest, which was always one of my favorite documentaries. Right?
One of them Monster Quest documentaries.
Yeah, it was my favorite documentary. No, the episode that I'm talking about actually, it originally aired on July 9th, 2008, and it was titled "The Black Beast of Exmoor." And the write-up
Hmm.
for that episode was stated between 1979 and 83, over 200 livestock were torn apart on the moors of England. Despite the efforts of armed Marines, no predator was ever found, and the attacks continue to this day. Eyewitnesses allege that a strange black beast is the culprit, but new video evidence could have answers to the mystery. An expedition team interviews the witnesses, analyze the evidence, and attempt to find what is truly prowling the English countryside. And what I'm going to do for everybody is I'm going to actually,
Fly us
if
all
this
to
is
England?
anything, yes, free. No,
Sweet.
I'm going to put the link to that Monster Quest episode there in the comment section on our Facebook page under the show. So anybody who wants to check it out could go check it out. There's a lot of good information on that. They would find the mauled remains of deer and other kind of large herbivores that were out there. So excuse me, check it out if you could get into it. It's pretty cool. But it's funny to think though of big cats existing in the UK. However, knowing how liberal the laws were. Back then, hold on, let me just scroll ahead here for a second. All right, let's make sure I'm not losing my spot there. But in the UK, back in the 60s, because you had mentioned the Animal Rights Act of 76 or whatever it was, or 67,
Mhm.
76, the Endangered Species Act.
76.
Yeah. Back in the early 60s, it was not uncommon to see people walking around the streets of London and the UK literally with a big cat on a leash. Like I've seen, you know, clips and stuff from back in those days where people were walking tigers down the street like it was a dog, you know. So it's
It
not
was the
uncommon to see.
60s, man.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah, everything was so different back there. And in fact, Harrods Pet Shop prided itself on selling exotic pets. I mean, the famed story of that Christian the lion cub, which I think I have a picture of that. I'm sure people have seen that on the internet, where these two guys, oh geez, what were their names? I can't remember their names. But anyways, these two guys, they bought Christian the lion cub from Harrods, and they raised them in their flat in England. And it got to the point where Christian was too big, and they took him to Africa. They released him, and then it's a really cool video. You could just Google it or look it up on YouTube. You'll find it. They go back several years later to see Christian, and it's this amazing how the lion remembers them and the interaction between them all. It is actually a really good story, but anyways, just as a point, you know, these people got a lion, and actually the pets that were sold in Harrods actually rivaled the London Zoo with such a vast array of animals. And they sold those animals for more than 50 years until, you know, the Endangered Species Act came into play. And I think Harrods opened in 1917. So that was a long span that they were open, selling these exotic animals. But anyways, it wouldn't be far-fetched to think that there are maybe surviving, I wouldn't say the actual pets, but maybe offspring of those pets that were released once the act came into play. You know, maybe a lot of people got bitter, and they're like, you know, I'm not going to surrender my animal to some zoo or wherever where they think they might be treated cruelly or something. So they'd feel it'd be better to just take them out into, like you said, the countryside and the moors and stuff like that, and just let them go. So there could be viable breeding populations left behind of the, you know, this influx of 60s exotic animal craze. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, I could see it being more along the lines of the released exotic pets. And you got to think, like, just because there's a law enacted doesn't mean people weren't still smuggling these pets into the country.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, I mean, I've had several exotic pets over the years, and you know, I can see
an exotic pet.
Yeah.
Well, you're Alicia's exotic pet.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, people still, you know, here's the thing. If you've had a, you know, jaguar as a pet, and you've had a jaguar as a pet, and it, you know, dies, it got old, it dies. And there's a law that says, oh, you can't have them anymore. And somebody says, hey, I can get you another jaguar. You know, you live out, you know, in the country, nobody's going to see it. What's to say somebody didn't bring in more of them? You know, and if there was a store selling them, there had to be a breeder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, they weren't going getting wild pups or kittens, I guess. I don't know. What are big cat babies called? Cubs.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, so they weren't going out in the wild and just snatching them. There had to be breeders and stuff like that. And breeders, that was a source of income. So if you take away my source of income, I'm going to tell you, I had them all put down, show you some fake paperwork, have them, you know, the old hounds of the Baskerville tied up out somewhere on a moor, you know, or some area like hidden out in the woods, go out and feed them when I need to, and keep breeding and selling them on the black market, because now their value has went up. You've increased the value of my, you know, jaguar pup or cub because they're illegal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, you know, I definitely see it more along those lines of released exotic pets. I think there would be more of a cultural impact and more cultural based stories if these were leftover Ice Age, you know, fauna.
Right.
there'd be more
history to
folklore.
it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now, however, there are similar cases in the U.S. as well. And there have been multiple reports from all over the U.S. regarding big cat sightings. Now seeing cougars in the U.S. may not be as strange as most people think. Seeing a black panther is. But if you go, according to a June 13th, 2015 post on the Texas Cryptid Hunter blogspot.com, there's, is a report that there's a well-known mountain lion hunter, Warren Glenn, was out on a hunt in the southern New Mexico area. And it wasn't long before his dogs were on the scent of a big cat. And once they had the scent and the target, the dogs were off like a shot. Glenn gave his dogs space to work, and their barks from a distance. It wasn't long before the barking dog ceased and was replaced by baying howls, indicating that the quarry had been treed. And upon hearing these telltale howls, he moves in and to dispatch it while it's up the tree. And a funny thing happened. A funny thing happened on the way to the forum. When he arrived at the scene, he did not find a mountain lion. Instead, he found his dogs had bayed a full-grown jaguar. Les just popped up the image here. He didn't reach for his rifle, however. He grabbed his camera and snapped a few pictures, pulled his dogs off the big cat, and allowed it to go on its way. One of the images captured, is the one Les is showing here. And it's simply spectacular to think, that's a full-grown jaguar in the, American Southwest.
Yeah.
But now he's no stranger to jaguars, and he had photographed another jaguar in the Animas Mountains of New Mexico.
Oh, really?
Sorry,
I've been there a few times.
I'm sorry, I was rewinding, folks. He had taken another photo back in 2006 while he was hunting. So first, it pretty much is the first recorded picture of a live jaguar in the U.S. All other photos that were ever taken or reported to have been taken in the U.S. were always of dead jaguars. And, since then, game cams have been capturing images of other jaguars, most notably the cat that was dubbed Macho B. Ooh, yeah, Macho B!
Wasn't that your name when you were in the underground Mexican wrestling ring?
No, my name was Macho C. Ooh, yeah. A few years back.
That was a good impersonation.
Yeah, it's about the only one I can do anymore.
Yeah, right.
Kind of kills my throat at points, but so to get back to this, there is one known as Macho B in Arizona. But the sightings and stuff are, extremely rare north of the border there.
Right.
And, they are very elusive at best, these big cats. It's not like you're going to see them everywhere.
Right. Well, even in their native habitat, like if you go into the Amazon and stuff like that, it's very rare to have a jaguar sighting. So, when it's hard to find them in their natural setting, it's going to be even harder to find them outside of that,
Yeah. And Mr. Glenn, is seems to be having an effort to protect these jaguar, because a cat that used to roam, a huge part of the American South and Southwest, having lost all that over the years. So it's kind of replacing its own, past ancestors, So, hopefully this will spur some, effort to protect them, these animals, and not just have, I mean, I'm not an animal rights activist, folks, in any sense of it, but I think, controlled hunting to keep a population at a safe number, not wholesale slaughter like we've seen in the past, where we have basically slaughtered these animals to near extinction, and near extinction in a total sense, but a relative geographic extinction in some areas.
Mm-hmm.
So I could kind of agree with that they should have some kind of protection, to a point, but if they are doing damage to livestock and stuff like that, they become a nuisance animal and they need to be done away with.
Right.
Or
at least try to be trapped and relocated. You know what I mean? Because their numbers are dwindling. They are an endangered species. So.
Yeah. Now, there's also, from the same blog, on June 30th of 2014, comes a witness report, this time from East Texas in Shelby County. The eastern boundary of the county and the state is the Sabine River. I'm sure my wife will yell at me later for mispronouncing that.
Probably.
Reports of a black panther from the Piney Woods region of Texas are not uncommon. Mm-hmm. Now, interestingly, what has become a very well-known game cam photo of an unusually dark-colored cougar, stalking a buck at a feeder came from this very area. Can you cue that photo for me?
You got it, bud.
Thank you.
You can see the deer in the foreground and the cat in the background. I don't know how well you can see it on Facebook. I'm just looking at the little preview panel, but before you go on, the interesting thing that I find on this, talking about perspective, is the deer in the foreground. The cat in the back, that black mass in the center of the screen is the cat, and that's fairly big compared to the buck in the foreground. So to me, that shows that whatever is in the background, that cat is large. Yeah. So that to me doesn't depict that it's a black domestic short hair just prowling around and it happened past a buck, unless that image was photoshopped, which I don't think it was. That's impressive.
Well, one of the things with that image, if you can see it on Facebook, if you look at the back legs of that buck, it kind of seems like it's in a startled, like about to try to take off, look to it. So it kind of doesn't. I don't see anything that would indicate to me that it was photoshopped. But it does look like that deer is spooked by something, and you can kind of see the deer itself is kind of looking in that direction.
Yep.
So it does.
Everything aligns. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, maybe the coloring of this cougar is a bit darker than normal. And here's what the report had to say. I'm going to actually read to you guys the blog report here. My neighbor on the next farm over has 4 large black cat pictures on his game cam from the spring of 2013 here on the edge of Timpson, Texas. Every now and then, out hog hunting, you can hear them scream. Kind of makes your hair stand up, not knowing or seeing where they are at. I'm sorry, folks. I was reading that verbatim. That wasn't my horrible English slaughtering.
No, that was just your horrible reading. No, you did fine, buddy. Don't worry about it. But what's interesting about that, I was up at. Have you ever been to Claws and Paws? Up in the Poconos? Well, I don't know if you have or if you haven't. But it's just a small little sanctuary zoo, if you will. And they actually have a black panther up there. And it's very reminiscent to a lion. I don't know if you ever heard a lion do that, like that real guttural when they call.
I've heard my cat do that right before it throws up.
Yeah, mine too. It's disgusting. But it's It is frightening, and it resonates. I mean, that sound travels vast distances. So if you're out hog hunting, I mean, it's unmistakable, and it's not like a cougar or anything. As Brian has put out there, like the puma, cougar, mountain lion, they all are the same species, same name. Although there's different subspecies of cougars, but they're all generally the same animal. But anyways, a cougar doesn't have that bellowy, deep guttural call like a lion, a tiger, a leopard, a jaguar. The cougar has almost like a chirp, but when it does roar, it's more of a like a wow. It's not deep. It's raspy.
It's the beginning of that Janet Jackson song.
Black cat, yeah, that one. I know what you're talking about.
But they play that sound.
Yeah. Which actually, if you listen on our evidence page on our Facebook, www.explorersgroup.com, there's a little video clip that Chad put up there, and it was an EVP that we caught at the Haldeman Mansion. And there's a sound that sounds like a scream, and somebody had suggested that it sounded like a cougar. And it's so funny that they said that, because I actually captured the same exact sound at a different location with a different group. But it is that you could hear the sound if you listen to that evidence clip. It's just like it's just very weird. So a cougar, they are in Texas, but you're not they don't make that sound. It's unmistakable when you hear a panther or a jaguar give out that call. Unmistakable. So that's my 2 cents.
Oh, well.
But anyways, so now I know we talked about the exotic pet theory in the UK, but I wonder if the US reports are more natural occurrences, because based off the information that you had just talked about, the jaguar is a native South American creature with a range of the Amazon jungle up to the northern parts of Mexico, and some parts actually go into the lower United States. Like I have a picture. Where is it at? Here. This is a picture of a jaguar's or a panther, their natural range. So you can see it's all the way down into Brazil, into the middle of South America, to the northern part of South America, up into Mexico, down into the lower portions. It looks like Texas, Arizona, New Mexico kind of areas. So that's just the jaguar and the panther's range. Which I thought that was very interesting. And now there are reports, like Chad had said, that Mr. Glenn had found the cat treed by his dogs. But here's another map I'll show you, that this is the new projected. Oops, I can take that one down and pop this one up. This is the new map of the border lines of the Jaguar's range, so that you could clearly see it's going up into Arizona and New Mexico. So with that information, like we said, the Amazon jungle, it goes all the way up to the northern Mexico and the southern United States. But now there's a popular jaguar that we had talked about before that's been found roaming throughout Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, that Macho B. So he's said to be the only one that roams throughout that area, and he died of kidney failure, and they think it was supposedly from the first time they caught him and tagged him, that something had gone wrong and he ended up dying. They had to euthanize him because his kidneys were failing, which really stinks. But there are also reports where I lost my place. I apologize. So now we have 2 confirmed reports. They have Macho B, and there was also a female in the northern Mexico, just fringing on the Arizona, New Mexico border, of a gold and black jaguar. So there's another one in the United States. So why not black panthers? Because as you probably know, black panthers are black due to a recessive gene. And a close examination of the color of these black cats will show, like if you look at a black panther, you could see the typical markings are still present, but they're hidden by this excessive black pigmentation in the melanin, giving an effect of similar to that of like a printed silk. But this is called ghost striping. So the melanistic and non-melanistic animals can be litter mates. So you could have a gold and black or a spotted jaguar, as well as an all-black panther in the same litter. It's thought that the melanism may confer a selective advantage under certain conditions, since it's more common in the regions of these dense rainforests and whatnot where the light levels are very low. So recently, preliminary studies also suggest that melanism might be linked to like a beneficial mutation. So rather than the natural gold and black spots, the black cat is actually at the advantage because of the dense foliage and whatnot. But it's also found that that recessive gene isn't just in jaguars. It's also found in another spotted large cat, which is the leopard in Africa. So I can understand due to deforestation, maybe the reduction in the habitat, that the South American jaguar is starting to branch back up north, because I mean they're decimating the rainforest by acres every day. So that might explain why these northern sightings are becoming a little bit more prominent. But what's even more interesting and yet confusing is there's actually sightings much further north in the United States, and in particular Pennsylvania and Ohio. And we had where is it at here? David Bradley joined into the show from Northeast Ohio. Welcome, David. And I wonder if he has heard anything about the Ohio black cats or the phantom cats in Ohio, as well as there's a buttload of Sasquatch reports from over there. And there's Yvonne Robertson from Pennsylvania. She's had sightings of her own, and she had given us permission to tell some of hers, and we'll get to those later on in the show. And Cleo said that she's had a sighting. Let me go back. Something in her area that looks like a white lion. Does it have a mane, Cleo? If you could tell us that makes you think it was a lion, because it might just be a real light cougar or something. But and Brian Miller also says about sightings of mountain lions, which I don't care what the Game Commission says. I've seen tracks along the pole lines up in the Broad Mountain. A friend of mine who's a police officer, he's found tracks in his hunting areas. There was a girl that we had gone to high school with. She was an ex-girlfriend of one of our friends from high school. She had a mountain lion run through her yard, which actually came across from the Cressona Mall, across Route 61, up through her backyard, over Seven Stars Road, and up into the mountain. So they are prominent, and they are alive and well in these areas. So I always stress to people now, and I don't practice what I preach. Never go hiking alone. Always go out with somebody, because you do never know what is out there. Now, I go hiking all the time with my dog, and I mean, I consider myself to be a strong, capable individual, but I mean, they're an ambush predator. If they take you, sneak up from behind and take a bite out of the back of your neck, I don't care how strong you are. I mean, your chances aren't going to be good after that. But that's why I keep my dog with me, so hopefully he sees it. But he's kind of a dumbass, so I'd probably end up getting bit. But anyways, I'm rambling. I'll let you speak, my friend.
Yeah, and one of the things, like, these cats are known to have up to a 600-mile range.
Yeah, that's their localized territory.
Yeah, so I mean, you got to figure if they're already that far up into like New Mexico and Arizona, they're gonna be pushing further north and west and east, eventually filling those territories, because there's going to be food, there's going to be terrain and stuff that's to their advantage in those areas. But as we posted on our Facebook page, I'm going to take liberty of reading it verbatim. Black Panther. Oh, go ahead, talk. Go ahead.
Oh, you know what? Actually, one good point that you actually brought up, I didn't even think about it, but when you said about their, they have such a broad territory range, and if you think about it, let me bring something up here, and actually kind of goes along with what you're saying. If I now have to scroll back up the top of the page, this map shows the territories, or the higher populations of cougars And cougars are, obviously common throughout North America, but predominantly on the West Coast and southern areas into Mexico, all throughout South America. So you have these two different species coexisting. And my thought is, if you look at the top of the North American portion of that map, right around the southern part of the United States, when you start going to the East Coast, there's not a lot of cougars over there. I mean, you have them over in Florida and whatnot, but so if these panthers and these jaguars are moving north and they have a 600-mile range, you got to think most of those animals, when another cat comes into their territory, they fight most times to the death to maintain their territories. If they're coming up and they're not running into any other cat that's going to challenge them for their territory, like Chad said, they're just going to keep moving and moving and moving and moving, and they're eventually going to make their way up into Pennsylvania, Ohio, and there's reports in Minnesota, really all over. So it could very well be, their ranges are moving up because they don't have a lot of competition.
Yeah. Well, that and too, their prey animals are going to avoid the areas where they are, so they're going to continue to chase that prey, and it's going to continue to move further and further on a map. But let me get back to what I was saying, since I'm reading it verbatim.
Yeah.
Black Panthers, cats, not the superhero movie, have been reported for decades in Pennsylvania. Although even more rare than have mountain lions. Yeah, even more rarely. Oh, even more rarely than have mountain lions. I don't know. I'm gonna paraphrase that.
There you go.
So many of those, making these reports generally assume that they have encountered some black phase of mountain lion. Mm-hmm. But some ascribe to a theory that the black cats are something different, an unknown species. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service recently declared extinct the eastern cougar, one of 11 subspecies of the mountain lion native to North America, but reports of black panthers are generally viewed closer to reports of Bigfoot than to an out-of-place cougar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
However, like reports of mountain lions in Pennsylvania, no reports of black panthers have been confirmed in Pennsylvania. In addition, no black mountain lion has ever been recorded anywhere, even in the American West, where cougars are known to occur. The few black panthers that have been confirmed have been melanistic jaguars in Central and South America, a melanistic leopard in Africa or Asia. Under close inspection, the black spot characteristics of some of these species have been present, but obscured by an unusual black pigment in the rest of the fur. Mm-hmm. And I'm scrolling down here. Hold on, folks.
Yeah, we covered the melanism, so we don't need to repeat that. Sorry, I should have taken that out.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Okay. So even bobcats, the cougar's much more common and widespread cousin, which occurs across much of Pennsylvania, melanism is so far that only a dozen sightings have been confirmed anywhere in North America. And let's see. Sorry, I'm scrolling as I'm reading this verbatim. In his book, Cougars, the American Lion. I like that name. Cougar, the American Lion. Kevin Hansen offered 40 English names, 25 Native American names, and 18 Native South American names for the mountain lion. Everywhere from Catamount to Painter and Black Panther did not make the list. Now, it's biologically feasibility or not, reports of black panthers continue. Here are some of the most recent reports. A resident of Sweet Valley in Luzerne County reported that her family has seen a black mountain lion 4 times since August 2017. She described it as about 2 to 3 feet tall, long body with long tail, and a slow stride or a stride of a gait when it walks. Rounded ears, sitting to watch for a while, then it goes in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Could you take the next part so I can drink a sip of water?
Yeah. In November 2015, the YouTube outdoor show Leatherwood Outdoors captured what looked like a black mountain lion during a Clarion County archery hunt for deer. However, the automatic focus of their camera equipment never caught a really sharp image of the animal, and the participants seemed more excited about shooting a doe than having captured something potentially groundbreaking in the video. So to me, that would be just probably not what it was. They probably saw a black cat and nobody paid mind to it and didn't care. But you never know. And then 3 years before that, in 2012, a driver reported seeing a black panther with a real long body, real long tail, shiny black, rippling muscles that crossed Route 61 near Locust Gap in Northumberland County, which isn't far from us, or from me. And I say us because you used to live here and you won't come home. But anyways, it hopped onto the side of the guardrail in the middle of a sunny day at close range. So, do you want to go back into that, or do you want me to just read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, ironically, we had a follower post on our link on our Facebook page, because what prompted this show tonight was we found an interesting post out there in Facebook land about the rise of sightings and the rise of numbers of black panthers or black cats throughout Pennsylvania and Ohio. So this is what we're reading from, was that post. And we're like, well, you know what? We were tossing it around. Chad was gracious enough to make a 4-plan show list. So it covers like 2 years worth of shows. And we're going through them, and we kept coming back to the big cats, the phantom cats. And I'm like, you know what? We got this post. Let's just do that. So we posted it on there, and we had one of our followers comment in there, and she states this quote: "I saw one while walking on a trail with my kids. I know you'll think I'm crazy, but I'm not lying. We don't think you're crazy. It's crossed the path way in front of us, then started walking towards us. It was in high weeds along the side of the trail, but we could see the tip of its tail. My husband stood facing it as it approached us, while I told the kids to turn around and walk slowly back to the road. To this day, I don't know where it went or why it left us alone, but we turned and walked away slowly, the whole time praying it wouldn't attack, and it didn't, and we got out unharmed, thank God." And this was only some of the reports that she had to offer, so that was pretty cool. One of my theories on excuse me, on why it didn't attack is it very well could be an escaped exotic pet and or animal from a sanctuary, because there's a lot of small zoos, like I said, that Paws and Claws, a lot of the small zoos that aren't as equipped, I guess, as some of the larger zoos. These animals could get out and they could be, still out in the forested areas around us. And the fact that it didn't attack, well, one, geez, excuse me, I'm gonna take a drink. Now it's my turn.
Yeah, for some reason, all of a sudden, I got like a scratchy throat. I actually just covered the mic. I need a cough button to be able to cough occasionally.
Yeah, I need to get that cough drop button where you just press it and it mutes you out. But two theories. One, it could have been a released exotic pet or an escaped animal that's used to human interaction, and it probably realized that, well, I'm not going to attack you because usually you leave me food, so I'm not going to work for my food because it's just left for me. Scenario number two is much like
Coop's
a cougar. What's that? Coop's hanging from his neck in his closet. Yeah. Basketball reference for anybody who knows. But anyways, cougars, panthers, leopards, they're ambush predators. They attack from behind. If you're facing them, they won't attack you. Even tigers are kind of the same way. They're an ambush predator. That's why if you ever notice, like a lot of the village people in India and stuff like that, the villagers, when they go out working, yeah, no, not village people. they go out in the woods and they dance the YMCA. No, when they're out in the woods and they're collecting firewood or working, doing whatever they're doing in the woods, they wear a mask on the back of their head. And that's so to try and trick a tiger. So if a tiger is coming, approaching the people, they see these masks on the back of their heads, and the tiger thinks that they see them, so it can't get the element of surprise, so it's going to let them alone. And it actually is quite effective, not 100%, but a high percentage of success rate on that. So that could be another reason why it didn't attack you, is because you were facing it. That's why if you ever do come across a cougar or something like that, make yourself look as big as you can, walk slowly backwards, don't take your eyes off that animal, because the minute you turn your back, it's going to be on you like flies on shit, and that I guarantee you. So what do you think?
Yeah, I always have to lean towards that it is an escaped animal, and not that it. Like my grandfather had a sighting in Pennsylvania back in the 80s. He saw a very large cat walking through the woods up off of Route 81, where it's basically where they built that new dump back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And he saw, they were out deer hunting, and he saw it walk from his tree stand. He just saw it walk across the ridge across from him, like 25 yards away. He saw this larger than normal cat just strolling through. And, so I definitely think we have, the Game Commission likes to say, oh, there aren't any here, or all these photos are fakes and this and that. But I mean, I would say we definitely have mountain lions and stuff like that are just, roaming. I mean, in Pennsylvania, there's so many sections of woods. It was at one time a natural habitat for them. So why would they not just start retaking it if they're in an area? And like we're saying, these animals are moving because of food.
Yeah.
The food is in the mountains. It's on these, stretches off of highways and stuff like that. And some of those stretches off the highways, I mean, it goes for 20, 30 miles before you hit anything that resembles civilization from the highway to that next, bit of civilization. And it's all wooded. So to me, there's definitely large cats out there. Now, could they be released, animals? I could see it happening. I mean, people release alligators and stuff like that they had as pets and stuff like that. The old story, flushing them down the toilet and then living in the sewer. But I mean, people legitimately do take alligators out into areas and just put them in a pond and, or drop them in a river somewhere and just kind of let them go. So you have a cat. Here's the thing. You also have a cat, and if it escapes, you don't want to admit to ever having that cat because you didn't have a license for it and stuff like that. You're not going to say anything. And somebody sees it now. Yeah. I would say, to me, I don't think anybody that's seeing these things are crazy in any sense of it. I mean, it is an animal that is native to this country and stuff like that. So yes, they've been hunted, to near extinction, but it's like coyotes. Coyotes were killed off. Then the Game Commission had an issue with deer running onto a highway. So they brought back the coyote. And the coyote population took off, and they had a problem with coyotes, and now the deer population is way down. Yeah. So, I mean, there's reports that they released wolves.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, allegedly. So,
well, don't you remember that was the big deal down at Hawk Mountain, is they were trying to warn hikers because there were wolves spotted in Hawk Mountain. Which is
really?
Right outside, in Berks County, Pennsylvania, yeah. At the Hawk Mountain Sanctuary.
Well, there was actually in Berks County, there was a report I think it was in Birdsboro or something like that, of a large, Now, not a big feline like a tiger, puma, jaguar air
Yeah.
size cat, but a larger than normal one of those African cats.
Oh,
That
like a serval?
a serval, yeah,
Yeah.
had gotten loose and had been reported running through people's yards and stuff like that. Now that's not a you know large feline, but it's still a
Well, it's big enough. They're the size of a like a medium to a larger dog, and they get big.
yeah,
They could get up to 40, 50, sometimes 60 pounds.
yeah. But so I mean that was somebody's pet at some point that got loose, and it was
Right.
running through town. That's not a native species to Berks County, Pennsylvania, but so somebody sees that, I think they're out there.
Yeah.
I would lend, like I said, my grandfather saw something years ago. I knew my grandfather my entire life, at least,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So he was not one to make up, fanciful stories. And the fact that he told my dad and my uncle while they were out hunting, there was a point to that. Like, hey, there is a cat skulking around here. We better be careful. Now,
Right.
the funniest thing was you had said about these, Indian village, not in Indian in India, wearing the masks backwards on their head.
Yeah.
I used to do that at work all the time. I used to put, have something on my back of my head so people thought I was actually paying attention during meetings.
I
I tried it with,
can see you do that. What's wrong?
what's
Did you?
that?
Oh, your video froze for a second there, and I thought
So did
maybe I
yours.
lost you. Hmm.
No, yours froze too. I thought I was hosting the show again by myself.
No, no, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, we had a lot of comments going through here, so I just want to touch base so that way people don't think that I'm ignoring them.
Mhm.
Let me try and go back.
Yeah, I
Brian says
definitely.
sightings of the mountain lion in around his area, and Cleo said about that lion. I don't know. Yeah, said a big mane. That's weird.
But also,
Albino or white lions aren't they never survive in the wild. They're usually killed by the rest of their pride because they're defective. They're not going to be a good hunter, or they're not going to have good camo. But that's got to be an escaped or released.
I was going to say, looking at where Cleo, is from, she had mentioned that, and to me, with all the hurricanes and stuff that comes through that area, the Gulf Coast and all that, I could see that being more of an escaped animal that has somehow adapted itself to that environment and been able to sustain itself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it being more on the white side, it might not be a true white, like you were saying earlier. It could be a very light color. You see it in dogs.
Yeah.
They get a very light color. It's not quite a white, and it's not quite their normal brown. It's that in between, and the way the light hits it at times, it'll be a little more whiter than darker. So
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely, I mean, that would be something I would probably be calling animal control and being like, "Hey, I've seen something out here that doesn't seem like it belongs out here, and
Yeah.
I don't want to alarm anybody, but I also don't want to see somebody get hurt."
Well, that's very scary to even just think about, the fact that there could be a huge African lion on the loose somewhere around here. And to your point, especially down in Florida, people have the skunk ape down there, their version of Bigfoot. I honestly think that is because of all the destruction and devastation, all the hurricanes that we've had. I think it's not really a quote Bigfoot. I just think it's escaped or unintentionally freed uh, great apes that are running around, like orangutan and chimpanzees and stuff like that. And I think they're in the Everglades and the swampy areas, and they're just keeping their troops kind of secluded back there. And I think that's what people are seeing. And as well as a lot of the people like in the southern areas, I think with the hurricanes, a lot of little zoos kind of lost their animals. And I don't think all have been accounted for. But David Bradley says about it, he's heard that they've spotted a Black Panther in Pennsylvania just last week. That's interesting. Brandon Perkins said there's quite a few pictures of big cats down in the south side of Virginia. And he fully believes that they're around the area regardless if they're said to not be here, which I agree. Cleo says about she's in South Alabama. Yeah, that's got to be hurricane, like you said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know the area where Brandon lives and stuff like that. I mean, I was, in a shop and they're getting reports that wild hog are moving into that area, not hogs that were got out and became feral, like the wild boar style hogs are starting to actually move into that part of Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have a very good meat source for a larger than normal predator. So that's going to be a crash course, especially with the hog moving in there and stuff like that, and the big cats and stuff like that. Yeah, I could definitely see this area being in that belt, because it is in this area. You go from North Carolina, pine forest, from here all the way up to New York, basically, with the Appalachian, all that stuff. There's just woods and dense forests that people aren't in on a regular basis. So I could see them, especially if these things have a 600-mile radius, they could be cruising 600 miles. I mean, from me to Myrtle Beach is only 285 miles.
Yeah.
Me to Pennsylvania, like up your way, is under 600 miles.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a huge range.
Yeah, so I mean, if these things are moving and food is moving, and think about it, hogs will move. The hogs will just keep moving as the food sources are available. They'll just move anywhere. But if you have something bigger pushing them into an area, a larger predator is kind of pushing from a southern or eastern way and pushing them west or north. They're going to definitely be following that kind of food.
Yeah.
At least I would be.
It's scary to think if these jaguars are around, because of all the big cats, they have one of the strongest bite forces, which is interesting and scary, man. I tell you, I'd love to see one, but I'd love to see one from a distance, because I'd be terrified, I think. That's why I always get nervous when I go walking with my kids, because I just have 2 little girls, and oh my God, if anything ever happened to them, I don't know what I'd do with myself. Oh, Cleo says that her lion is white but dirty looking.
Yeah, I can see that, kind of not being something that would die off on its own, moving around. And, you got hogs down there too. I mean, you got food sources that a big cat could, a big cat could take out a small hog.
Easy.
It could take out a deer. It's not that it would be incapable of doing it.
Yep. One of the last things that I wanted to talk about, because we're talking about escaped exotic animals, and I'm not going to go on too long because it's 10 o'clock now, and I don't want to, go crazy here. But one story that I found interesting was in Columbus, on the ColumbusDispatch.com, there was a report from Zanesville, Ohio, where 56 exotic animals escaped from a farm, and 49 of them were killed by the authorities. I'm going to post the link for everybody if they want to look into it and read more about it. Let me put that out there for everybody to see really quick. So the link's there if you want to read more, but I have it up. Let me pull it over here. And it's sad, because I think it's a story where you had this guy who owned a sanctuary for pets that people didn't want anymore. Zoos didn't want some animals. Basically, they took the misfits of the animal world, and it wasn't just big cats. I mean, they had bear, they had wolves, they had all different kinds of exotic and apex predators. But Yeah, here, of those 49 animals that were killed, 6 animals, a grizzly bear, 3 leopards, and 2 monkeys were captured alive and taken to the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium. And a monkey and a gray wolf were still at large. The animals that were killed included 18 tigers, 9 male lions, 8 female lions, 6 black bears, 3 mountain lions, 2 grizzly bears, a baboon, which could be extremely dangerous, and 2 wolves. The sheriff there said that the escaped monkey poses a danger because it's infected with herpes. Hey, that herpes. Tell you what. But the owner of the farm, Terry Thompson, was found dead. Well, it says last night, but whenever that was back in 2011. But he was found dead on his property. They say that Thompson opened the cage doors and cut the wires on the cages. Then he killed himself and died. He died from a gunshot wound. And
I say the monkey and the wolf that were still at large did it.
Probably.
They're working together. It was an inside job.
Yeah, well, the monkey was bitter because, Thompson gave him the herpes and he rode off on the wolf, But it said that Thompson's body was bothered by the animals, so I would assume that he was, in some way, shape, or form, partially consumed. It says that they previously said a grizzly bear and a wolf and a mountain lion were still missing. And again, that's pretty scary because I remember, and it was funny because when did I come down to see you? September.
Yeah.
Around there. I went down to visit to drop my mom off at my aunt and my uncle's house, and then I went over to your house. But when I was with my uncle, I was talking and we're just kind of reminiscing and hashing out old stories and whatnot. And I remember when I was little, I was probably 13 years old. I was at my uncle's house and we were out driving around, and I swear that I saw a brown bear when we were driving around these back roads. And this was just up in Shikshini in Pennsylvania. And I swear. And he said that he never told me this until now, but people were actually reporting it. And he said that somebody had shot it and dropped it off because the state game lands, or not the state game, the game commission were, no, there's no brown bear around here. No brown bear, until somebody shot it and dropped it off on their doorstep and said, there it is. So I saw it. I saw the elusive brown bear. So I thought that was pretty neat. But anyways, the authorities confirmed that they killed the bear on the property last night. The wolf was later found dead, and it had been shot that prior night. And an officer wounded the mountain lion, which staggered into a neighbor's property and then died. So, and then they show some photos of all the dead animals, which again, like I said, it's really, really sad that those animals had to die. But I mean, I guess better safe than sorry. And Jack Hanna was actually involved with that, with the Columbus Zoo. And I don't know if anybody knows Jack Hanna. Saturday mornings, he's on TV. My kids like to watch the Saturday morning, like the animal shows and stuff like that. And Jungle Jack Hanna has his show on there where he talks to the kids about animals and whatnot, and he goes on zany adventures and whatnot. So he was involved with that too. So if you want to check out more, go to that link and see for yourselves. But yeah, crazy stuff. So there is no doubt in my mind that the possibilities of all these escaped animals are out there. But yeah, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think some of it is natural animals moving back into territories that were, part of their original habitat. I think some of these sightings are clearly escaped, escaped pets or, escaped exhibits. I mean, think about all those traveling circuses and stuff like that used to crisscross the country that would have, at that point, very exotic animals because there was only so many in our country, Black Panthers and stuff like that. I mean, if a Black Panther got loose, on the road, got out of its cage, you were going to be 500 miles away the next day. and you weren't anywhere near civilization, you took 20 minutes to look for it, couldn't find it, it could have, wandered its way into, somebody's hunting area or something like that and been seen. So yeah, I definitely think a lot of these cat stories, I would believe the person. Now, I know in like Monster Quest, that, brilliant documentary series that they made, there was that one cat photo that is clearly a normal sized house cat, maybe a little bit longer than normal, but I have a very large, lengthwise black house cat.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit bigger than normal, but it's a photo taken on that perspective of it, it was being shot uphill, and people are like, it was 4 foot tall. It was a house cat in the photo. Like, the first guy that looked at it was like, no, dude, that's a house cat. That's clearly a house cat. Look at this. Look at the cat's head. Look at its body. Look how the muscle tone is and stuff like that. It's a house cat. So yeah, I'm sure there are people that are seeing stuff or seeing it at a distance and thinking it's a Black Panther. But yeah, I think some of these other stories really have a lot of leg to them, and people are seeing them. And like I said, I don't care what the game commissions tell people. There's enough people reporting seeing. I look at it this way. I would rather, you and I had talked about this. Why is there such a cover up about these animals being out there, instead of saying, hey, we can't necessarily confirm that we're seeing or that these sightings are correct, but be extra careful while you're out, because there have been alleged sightings. I mean, in California at the Hollywood sign, they have a 9-foot mountain lion that roams in that area on the trails and stuff. And when you get there in the parking areas, on the sign it says, caution, mountain lions, are known to habitate in this area. So why is there a cover up to that? Why are they not coming forward and just saying, look, we're not 100% sure.
Yeah, just use caution.
Use caution when you're going out there. Not, no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's exactly right. Like, you would think that they would want to make people aware of it, want to make people know that there is a potential danger in the forest. Now, granted, everybody knows there's black bears out there. People go out in the woods all the time. I've actually walked up upon black bear on my adventures out in the woods. I mean, I'm usually looking for Bigfoot, but a black bear will do. Fuck.
Yeah.
This is no lie. I mean, the one I want to say maybe 2013. I went out for Father's Day. Leslie and I went up on the broad mountain behind our place. We went for a hike, and I love bears. I swear, like, if I have a spirit animal, it's a bear, right? Well, we were walking along, and I'm looking for tracks and everything, and I'm primarily Bigfoot, but I look you know how I am. I check every mud puddle, everything, and we're walking along, and we get out so far, and this is very strange. We're walking along, and we come to a spot where it's like a service road through the mountain. And then it crosses with like a high tension power line road. So we come to that intersection, and off to the side, there's a clear cut area where they cut out sections of the woods so grasses could grow for the deer, so they have places to eat during the winter. No lie, I look off into this clear cut, and running back into the bush was an emu. I'm not kidding.
Was it Emu Phillips?
No, but close. No, because at first I thought it was a turkey, but I'm like, no way. Like, when it ran, the neck was super long, the feathers kind of flayed back, and it just did that, like an ostrich, or like, you know what I mean? Took off, and then I said to Leslie, I'm like, she's like, because she just got a tiny glimpse, and she's like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. She's like, what? I'm like, a freaking emu. And she's like, what? Like, I said, it's an emu. It was an emu. And she's like, are you sure it wasn't a turkey? I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know the difference between a turkey and an emu. Sure enough, we walk up there and we found emu feathers from when it was running. Then we go down a little bit further, and I always like teasing her. So I wanted to spook her, and I'm like, oh man, and I see this black mound down in this other clear cut because they dump like macadam and shit out that road, and and I'm like, oh my god, it's got to be, there's a macadam pile, and I said to her, I'm like, stop. She's like, what? I'm like,
collaborate and listen.
Yeah, ice is back. But I said, there's a bear. She's like, what? I'm like, I'm telling you, look, there's a bear. She's like, oh my god. She's like, what are we gonna do? She starts freaking out. I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm like just stay calm, And I'm trying to hold my laugh back because she's freaking out. Then the pile of macadam lifted its head and looked at me. Yeah, it actually, it was a huge black bear. Lifted his head up, and you can see it start coming towards us. I'm like, oh shit, because then it called my bluff there. And I'm like, oh my god. She's like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? I'm like, just relax. And I grabbed a handful of as big rocks as I could find, and I was stuffing them in my pocket. I'm like, look, walk slow. We'll walk backwards. Just keep a pace, but So we start walking. I said, if it comes after us, I said, I'm going to start throwing rocks at this thing. I said, you go get back to the car because one of us has got to take care of our kids. I said, just go. I'll be fine. And luckily it didn't follow us. But when we went back, and like I said, I check every puddle. I check everything. There were a fresh set of bear tracks. So the thing must have been tailing us. I don't know if it was the same one. But literally, dude, we went back the same way, and there were all these bear tracks, and then it just kind of went off in the brush. I said, holy Christ, you got to be kidding me. So then we left. We went home. We went back to our house.
And the bear was waiting for you in the kitchen.
Yeah. It was cooking up some sausages, too. It was great.
Did it have its face in the grill?
yeah, like I do. But no lie, we come back, and when we're parking the cars, this is when we lived at the farmhouse.
Yeah.
Out in the field on the other side of the horse pasture, sure enough, there was a sow with 4 cubs walking across the open area of the field. And then we went to my mom's, and I was like, oh my god, we saw these bear. Then we came home on the way home from my mom's. We're coming around this turn on a back road. There's another black bear running down the road in front of us. Probably went about 50 yards, then it cut into the bush. I'm like, what a wonderful Father's Day to have all these different kind of sightings and whatnot. I mean, the only thing that would have made it bigger is if I seen a Bigfoot. But I'll take 7 bear and an emu, But yeah, so that was that.
The first time I saw a bear was on 209 in that stretch between like Tamaqua and Pottsville. It was Christmas Eve. And it was running alongside the road as we were coming back from my Grandma Jones' house in Tamaqua.
Mm-hmm.
But it was years until I saw one in the woods. I mean, out in the woods, growing up on the side of a mountain and stuff like that. Just never saw them. I mean, we would have them, you'd see them in people's backyards and stuff like that, ripping at the garbage and stuff, but not out in the woods. And it wasn't until I was probably about 16 until I ran into one up on the mountain. Yeah. So,
I remember when I was really young, I was that uncle that I was telling you about with the grizzly bear, with the brown bear. I used to spend a week at a time up at his place over the summers, and we were out walking, and he had a dog. His name was Blue. He was a quarter wolf, coolest dog in the world. And we used to go walking all the time, and he was huge. And I remember walking up over a hump, and sure enough, coming up probably 50 feet in front of us, this huge black bear. And I remember Blue was going nuts, and my uncle was cool as a cucumber, didn't faze him at all. It was awesome. It was awesome. That was the closest I ever came to a bear in the wild. And, it was pretty neat. But anyways, it is about 20 after 10. We're approaching the 2-hour mark. We've exhausted our topic. We've exhausted ourselves. So I think we should end the show. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah.
Okay. So
as I look at my imaginary watch on my wrist here, I'm good with that.
Imaginary watch. Yeah. All right, let me bring things up. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was our show for this evening. We had our time traveling oddity. We talked about phantom cats and the uprising numbers of sightings of Black Panthers and jaguars throughout the UK and the United States. If you want to get in touch with us, you could go to our website, www.explorersgroup.com. Hit us up on the Contact Us page. You could find us on Twitter at Explorers Group, here on Facebook, facebook.com/Explorers Group or / whatever. I screwed it up again. You could find us on Instagram at Instagram / Explorers Group, iTunes. Have a good one, David. Thanks for joining us, buddy. Appreciate it. And actually, speaking of you, David, you put a link on there. Let me quick find it for everybody. Google Penn Live Black Panther to find out more sightings of Black Panthers in Pennsylvania. So check that out. Thank you, David, for that heads up. Yes, and just I want to let everybody know, we don't have any donation sites or anything like that. We're not looking, for you to give us money in any way, shape, or form. However, we do want to continue to bring everybody the content and the stories. So if you go to our Facebook page and you go into the gear section, we are an affiliate of the Amazon affiliate of
the affiliate program.
Yeah, we're the affiliate of the affiliate program. We are a participant. I'm getting tired of the Amazon affiliate program. And what that means is if you click on the link of any of the products that we have out there, you do not have to buy them. Just click on one of them and you could do your normal Amazon shopping. So while you're on Amazon shopping, just click through one of our links. The cookie will be on your computer, is good for 24 hours. So as long as you buy within 24 hours, whatever you buy, a small portion will be donated to our show through Amazon. You don't pay extra. It's not like you have to pay more for this. It's just whatever you buy, Amazon gives us a small percentage out of that because of the affiliate link, because you came through us to get to them to buy something. And all those little bits add up. It helps pay for our subscription to Be Live. It helps pay for investigations for us to bring you new content, new material for the show, new supplies for us, like headphones, microphones, mixers, all that stuff. The money goes towards all that. So I hate asking. I am not that kind of person, but I'm just saying, if you're going to do any kind of shopping, just click through our links, please, so we get that little bit of a kickback. I don't want you to donate money to us or anything like that. We just do the Amazon thing. That's all I ask. And we are a participant affiliate of GhostStop.com too. So if you want to buy anything from GhostStop.com, go to our gear page, click on that link, and you guys could we'll get a little kickback if you buy anything off them. They got a lot of cool stuff. So on that note, this is Less Than Cabbage signing off for another great show, another great episode. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. And Chad, as always, brother, thanks, man.
Yep. Thank you, bro. Talk to y'all later.
Yes, sir. Good night.